You know, exhibitions, many people have the wrong perception. They think they come here, they make deals, and then they go over the order. I think if you're expecting that, you're going to be very disappointed. I think what's more important in our industry, defense, it's built on trusted relationships. So the more people you get to meet, the more relations you build. You meet old friends again, and these relationships are built over years. So hopefully we reacquaint ourselves with a lot of old friends. We get to meet them, inform them of what our company is doing, see some of our successes, and then hopefully one day when tenders come out, when RFOs come out, we're in a position to bid and people know our brand, they know our name, and we'll be in a favorable position. Well, I think for us, what's critical is that we need to give effect to the bilateral cooperation agreements signed between South Africa and other African countries. They are economic bilateral cooperation agreements, they are defense bilateral cooperation agreements. Now, often when these African countries, they seek to acquire Navy vessels or maintain their Navy vessels, they often go to Europe or US or China or Korea, wherever it is. For us, our aim is to let as many African countries know that we exist as a South African military marine industry. We have marine naval defense capability in Africa. So to that effect, we're talking to the likes of Mozambique, as you said, Tanzania, Kenya, Namibia, Nigeria, Congo. You know, we kind of stick into the SADC region. That's where we think we have strong political relationships. South Africa is seen as an ally. There's a lot of cooperation both at a political level and an economic level. So those are what we call the low-hanging fruits. And you know, once we're able to consolidate our efforts in these SADC kind of regions, then perhaps we'll move further north. We were one of the key drivers of the charter. I actually sat on the council to make sure that happens, and I remember working 2 nights in a row in Durban because that's where the charter was signed by the ministers responsible for transport in Africa, and we worked 2 nights in a row, you know, with the DGs of the various departments, making sure this is all ready, and it was signed. But however, a lot of things in Africa, they get put on paper, but they're not implemented. And I think the challenge is to find a common interest to implement it. Often people say, okay, we're going to give you, South Africa is probably the most advanced marine engineering player on the continent. So yeah, so all we're going to do is give you, South Africa, the work. Our challenge is to say, how can we capacitate our African brothers and sisters in on the continent to be able to create marine engineering and marine industrial capability in those countries, because then they'll see the benefit to be able to execute the charter and implement the charter. Right now, it's all there in paper. Political speeches are made and goodwill gestures are made to say, yes, we will do it. But in reality, nothing ever gets done because there's no vested interest, you know, except for South Africa currently. So we're saying, let's find a way to jointly develop each other's maritime industrial and maritime engineering capabilities, and then for sure you'll see the charter will take off. It'll become a reality. This year, you know, we've taken our emphasis away from only selling new vessels, and we're putting a lot of effort into what we call the maintenance, repair and overhaul market. We think African navies may not necessarily have the budget to go on a large acquisition program, but what they do have is a number of vessels that were donated by the Americans, by the French, by the British, the Chinese, Koreans, Germans over the years. So those vessels were donated, but they were not donated with a technical upkeep package to teach those countries how to maintain those vessels and keep them in good order. So invariably, after a year or 2 or 3, those vessels get laid up and they just lie there. Now, we have a proven case study where we took 3 South African Navy vessels that were, some of them were laid up, some of them were just barely ambling along, and we rehabilitated all 3 vessels for less than 10% of the price of acquiring a new vessel. And you know, that's the Galeshwe, you know, the Dayoba and the forget the third one's name, but you know those three vessels I'm talking about. And those vessels are patrolling at sea. We've extended their life by 10 years, and they are wonderful. So what we're trying to say, we want to be able to say, African navies, you must have presence at sea. Yes, you can't afford a new vessel, but you do have an existing asset base which you could leverage and then be able to have full presence at sea. So we get the platforms back to a 10-year lifespan, put in the training package, and I think we'll solve a lot of the problems with the African Navy. So that's our primary thrust. Obviously, there's the South African Navy projects, Project Hotel, which we think we have an extremely competitive bid. I think no other bidder will have as strong a consortium as we do, because we're not going to bid as SA Shipyards. We're actually going to bid as a South African Hydrographic Vessel Consortium. So we're bringing all the local players together to provide a hydrographic solution to the Navy. And then there's a famous Project Biro, which everyone keeps on talking about, and we're all waiting in anticipation for many years. So yes, we got a vessel on show, which we're working with our German partner Lersen on. So we'll be promoting that. So those are our three objectives, really, in terms of this wonderful exhibition.